So hello and a warm welcome to the Data Explorer's Market Update, where today we are adding our 2 pence worth onto the situation in Portugal. We don't like to be the first to come out with these stories, but everybody from Bloomberg to the Wall Street Journal to the FT are now all running rather aggressively with the story about how Portugal is looking likely for a bailout. And I suppose, to be fair, the S&P has downgraded various Portuguese banks and also the Portuguese sovereign debt a couple of notches in various cases. So is this just talk in the media, or is there real genuine investor trading going on behind the scenes here? Well, we can see a headline sort of from our data is that those funds who own Portuguese, Greek and Irish government bonds have been reducing their holdings, have never owned less of the bonds of these particular European countries, which tells you that they are keen to deploy their money elsewhere, where there's a bit of risk-reward ratio. And Portugal, the amount of Portuguese government bonds sitting in lending programs, obviously it fell a lot when Greece was having its bailout, but it's just then fallen sort of below where it's been sitting, showing that there is definitely some recent negative momentum there. If you look at some of the individual bonds, there's a Greek one, the April 2011, that catches my eye, and there's also a Portuguese April 11 and June 12, where you're seeing kind of investor sentiment, kind of investors who are long those bonds selling them, and people who are borrowing bonds or potentially covering CDS and shorting them rising. Not surprisingly, Portugal has said it hasn't got enough money to basically pay its any bonds beyond April, so that's coming through in the data a bit. If we look over on the equity side, Banco Espírito Santo remains quite heavily borrowed at 4%. This is the equity, although the institutional investors have been buying Banco Espírito Santo, so there's a negative sort of mixed investor sentiment in BES. BCP, Banco Comercial Português, 8% short, a much bigger short position. But again, institutional investors have bought a lot of this name. I think about 80 million shares since January. So definitely some people think that BCP will be absolutely fine. So there's obviously a lot happening, a lot of anticipation by investors going on, as well as media chit-chat, and we hope the situation can get resolved as quickly as possible for the best possible outcome for everybody. If you'd like to read the report, it is at dataexplorers.com/news.